Monday, 10:30 a.m. The termination notice was sitting on my desk when I got back from getting coffee. Brandon Sullivan must have dropped it there while I was in the break room talking to the guys about the Lions' chances next season. Clean white paper. Expensive company letterhead, my name typed across the middle like I was already dead to them. Effective immediately. Report to HR, 27 years at Apex Automotive Solutions, gone in 4 words. I'm Ryan Patterson. I'm 49 years old, and I just got fired from the company where I've spent more than half my life building something that actually mattered. The secure core system, automotive cybersecurity that keeps people's cars from getting hacked while they're driving down I-75 with their families. My life's work, and Brandon Sullivan just threw it away like yesterday's newspaper. What that 28-year-old MBA didn't know when he walked into my office this morning was that he'd just lit a fuse on a bomb that would go off in exactly 96 hours. My $180,000 performance bonus was scheduled to hit my account Friday at 11 a.m. Brandon probably thought he was being clever. Fire the old guy before his big payday. Save daddy's company some money, show the board he could make tough decisions. Problem is, his Wharton education never taught him to read the fine print on contracts written by guys who survived 30 years in Detroit's automotive wars. That bonus wasn't just money, it was a trigger. See, 15 years ago, Nolan Richards, Apex's founder and the best boss I ever had, wrote a clause into my contract that nobody else knew about. Nolan came up through the UAW ranks back when that meant something, fought plant managers tooth and nail over safety issues, won more battles than he lost. When he started Apex after the big downsizing in the early 2000s, he brought that same protect your people mentality with him. The clause was simple and bulletproof. Once my annual bonus cleared, full legal ownership of the secure core system would automatically transfer to me, not some handshake deal or gentleman's agreement. Real intellectual property rights, filed with the state, sitting in escrow waiting for that electronic payment confirmation. And without secure core, Apex had absolutely nothing to offer Stellantis except empty promises and Brandon's PowerPoint presentations. I signed the termination paperwork without saying a word. My hands were steady as a rock. Been expecting this for months, ever since Shane Sullivan brought his son in as VP of Strategic Development. The kid had been gunning for me since day one, probably looking at my salary and thinking about all the ways he could spend that money better. Walking past Brandon's corner office on my way out, I could see him through the glass walls on the phone gesturing like he was conducting a symphony, probably calling Daddy to brag about the brilliant cost-cutting move he'd just pulled off. I left a small black USB drive on my desk where he'd be sure to see it. Let him think it was important. That drive had been empty for 5 years. Every real backup, every line of critical secure core code, every security protocol that made our system worth $420 million to Stellantis, all of it was locked behind biometric encryption that only recognized my thumbprint and retinal scan. I walked through Apex's lobby for the last time past the wall of automotive industry awards we'd won for cybersecurity innovation. Past the framed photos of Nolan with 3 generations of Detroit auto executives, past the receptionist who'd been saying good morning to me for 8 years. She looked confused when I nodded goodbye. Outside in the February cold, I climbed into my F-150 and sat there for a minute, engine running, watching people walk in and out of the building where I'd spent more waking hours than in my own home. Detroit was having one of those gray winter days where the sky presses down on everything like a lead blanket. In 96 hours, this would all be different. I drove home through streets I'd traveled for 27 years, past the Coney Island place where Nolan and I used to grab lunch and argue about the Red Wings, past the auto parts stores and repair shops that made up the ecosystem we served. These were my people, mechanics and engineers and line workers who understood what it meant to build something with your hands and take pride in making it right. Jessica was in the kitchen when I walked in, helping our 8-year-old granddaughter Madison with her math homework. Jessica's been my wife for 26 years, taught elementary school through every boom and bust cycle this city's seen. She looked up from Madison's workbook and took one look at my face. Let me guess. Brandon. I handed her the termination notice. She read it twice, her jaw getting tighter each time. She glanced at Madison, who was focused on her multiplication tables, then back at me. That little prince thinks he can just throw away 27 years. He thinks he's saving money. Cut me loose before my bonus pays Friday. How much money are we talking about? 18,000 tight. 6, she whistled low. That's Madison's college fund when she's ready. Was Madison's college fund. Jessica studied my face. After 26 years, she could read me like one of her lesson plans. But there's something else, isn't there? That look you get when you're 3 moves ahead in chess. I poured myself a cup of coffee from the pot she'd made. Through the kitchen window, I could see the bird feeder Jessica hung last spring, covered in snow but still attracting the cardinals and blue jays that reminded us both why we loved this old house in Dearborn Heights. Remember Nolan's retirement party, the speech he gave about protecting what we built? Jessica set down her red pen and gave me her full attention. This was her teacher voice, the one that meant she was about to learn something important. What kind of protection, Ryan? The kind that transfers full ownership of SecureCore to me the moment my bonus clears. She blinked. Come again. Friday at 11 a.m. When that $180,000 hits my account, I become the legal owner of every line of code, every patent, every licensing agreement tied to the SecureCore system. Not Apex, me. And without that system, Stellantis has no reason to pay $420 million for Apex. The merger dies. Jessica leaned back in her chair, processing. From the living room, I could hear Madison giggling at some cartoon. Ryan, that's Nolan's entire legacy you're talking about. Nolan knew exactly what he was doing. We were at Buddy's Pizza after pulling an all-nighter fixing a security breach for Ford. This was 2009, right after the bailout when nobody knew if the auto industry would survive. Nolan looked exhausted, older than his 58 years. I could still picture him across that red vinyl booth, sleeves rolled up, tiger's cap crooked, talking between bites of Detroit-style pizza about the future of automotive cybersecurity. He said something I'll never forget. Ryan, I've seen too many good companies get gutted by people who don't understand what makes them valuable. When I'm gone, I want to make sure the work we're doing here can't be destroyed by some MBA who thinks everything's just numbers on a spreadsheet. So he wrote you into the contract as a failsafe. Exactly. The transfer agreement's been sitting in escrow for 15 years, waiting for the right trigger. Nolan figured if anyone ever tried to push me out before I was ready to retire, they'd learn real quick why that was a mistake. Jessica shook her head slowly. Brandon has no idea what he just did. None. And in about 6 hours, when Stellantis starts asking questions about key personnel continuity, he's going to find out the hard way. I went upstairs to my home office and powered up my workstation. The familiar hum of the servers I'd built over the years filled the room like a mechanical heartbeat. On the main screen, I pulled up a countdown timer and set it for Friday, 11 a.m. Red numbers appeared, 95 hours, 28 minutes, 14 seconds. Then I did something I'd been preparing for since the day Nolan explained the clause to me. I opened a secure partition on my system and accessed the automated protocols I'd built years ago. Insurance, Nolan had called it. A dead man's switch for the digital age. The first protocol was an email scheduler. If the SecureCore licensing rights weren't renewed by Friday at 11 a.m., and they couldn't be without me as an active Apex employee, an automated message would send to 3 key people at Stellantis: Nicole Johnson, their lead counsel, Justin Cooper, CEO of Stellantis North America, and their CTO who'd personally approved the SecureCore integration. The message was simple and professional. As of Friday, February 16th at 1100 AA, Apex Automotive Solutions no longer holds valid licensing rights to the SecureCore protocol central to the Stellantis merger integration. Please review Section 12 of the merger agreement regarding key personnel continuity requirements. Section 12 minus the clause that listed 3 Apex employees as essential personnel whose departure before merger completion would trigger renegotiation rights for Stellantis. My name was first on that list. Brandon had signed the merger agreement 8 months ago in a ceremonial press conference at the Renaissance Center, probably never reading past the executive summary. The second protocol was more subtle. Every major automotive news outlet would receive an anonymous tip about personnel changes at Apex affecting the Stellantis merger. Nothing specific, nothing that could be traced back to me, just enough to get reporters asking questions that Brandon couldn't answer. My phone buzzed with a text message. Casey Thompson, one of our senior engineers. I'd been mentoring Casey for 5 years, ever since he graduated from Wayne State with a computer engineering degree and the kind of hunger to learn that reminded me of myself at his age. Mr. Patterson heard what happened. This is wrong. Can we talk? I called him back immediately. Casey, you don't waste time. Sir Brandon's been asking questions about SecureCore architecture all afternoon. Had me trying to access your secured directories. Did they get in? Not even close, but he's panicking. started talking about bringing in outside consultants, maybe reaching out to competitors to license similar systems. That was interesting. Brandon was already looking for alternatives, which meant he was smart enough to realize Apex's value proposition depended entirely on Secure Core. What did you tell him? That Secure Core isn't just software. It's an integrated hardware-software solution with proprietary encryption protocols. You can't just swap it out like changing brake pads. Casey was smart, too smart to stay at Apex much longer under Brandon's leadership. Good answer, Casey. I want you to know something. Whatever happens in the next few days, you've got a bright future in this industry. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. Sir, are you saying what I think you're saying? I'm saying keep your options open. After we hung up, I realized Casey would be getting a call soon. Brandon would need someone to take over my responsibilities, at least temporarily. Casey was the obvious choice, young, talented, technically capable. Brandon would probably offer him a promotion, maybe even my old title. I hoped Casey was smart enough to ask the right questions before accepting. Tuesday, 6:15 a.m. I woke up before my alarm the way I'd been doing for 27 years. Old habits from the Navy die hard. Jessica was still asleep, so I went downstairs quietly and made coffee. The house felt different somehow. Lighter, maybe? Or maybe that was just me. My phone had 2 missed calls from unknown numbers and 3 unread emails. The emails were from reporters, Detroit Free Press, Crane's Detroit Business, and someone from Reuters who'd somehow gotten my personal address. The countdown on my computer read, 76 hours, 45 minutes, 22 seconds. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my email chimed. A message from Rebecca Martinez at Automotive News with the subject line, Apex Automotive Personnel changes MERM request for comment. Rebecca's email was professional but direct. Mr. Patterson, I've received information suggesting recent personnel changes at Apex Automotive related to the pending Stellantis merger. Industry sources indicate these changes may affect technical integration timelines. Would you be available for a brief phone conversation? I replied with one sentence. I'd suggest asking Apex's leadership team about Section 12 compliance and essential personnel requirements. That was all it would take. Rebecca was a good reporter, the kind who actually read SEC filings and merger agreements instead of just copying press releases. She'd find Section 12, cross-reference it with the personnel changes, and start asking uncomfortable questions. My phone rang at 8 a.m. sharp. Nicole Johnson from Stellantis. I recognized the Auburn Hills area code before I answered. Mr. Patterson, thank you for taking my call. I'm lead counsel for Stellantis North America. We've had some questions raised about the Apex merger, specifically regarding key personnel requirements. I kept my voice neutral. Section 12. You're familiar with it? I should be. My name's first on the list. A pause. Yes, it is. Mr. Patterson, there seems to be some confusion about your current employment status with Apex. Our records show you as essential personnel for the integration, but we've received conflicting information. What kind of conflicting information? A reporter called this morning asking about personnel changes affecting the merger timeline. When we contacted Apex for clarification, we were told you were no longer with the company as of yesterday. I let that hang in the air for a moment. That's accurate. Mr. Patterson, if you're no longer employed by Apex, that creates substantial complications for the merger agreement. Section 12 specifically states that essential personnel departures trigger renegotiation rights. I'm familiar with the language. Then you understand our position. We need to verify the current status of all licensing agreements tied to essential personnel, particularly the Secure Core system. You'll need to ask Apex for those certifications. We have. They're having difficulty locating the current certificates. I almost smiled. Brandon was probably tearing apart filing cabinets right now, looking for documents that didn't exist where he thought they should. That's unfortunate. Mr. Patterson, I'll be direct. Stellantis has invested 14 months and considerable resources in this merger based on representations about Apex's capabilities. If there are issues with the Secure Core licensing, Ms. Johnson, I can't speak for Apex's current licensing status. I'm no longer an employee. After we hung up, I sat back and watched the countdown timer. 74 hours, 12 minutes, 33 seconds. Instead of waiting for more calls, I decided to take a different approach. I opened my laptop and composed an email to Brett Anderson, Apex's longest-serving board member and the guy who'd been there since Nolan founded the company. Brett, I assume you're hearing from Stellantis about Section 12 compliance issues. As you know, my departure triggers certain contractual obligations that may affect Apex's licensing arrangements. If the board wants to discuss options before Friday's deadline, I'm available, but not through Brandon. Ryan, I sent it and waited. Tuesday, 11:30 a.m. Jessica found me in my office, staring at the countdown timer while listening to WJR's morning talk show, something I hadn't had time to do in years. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Honestly, different than I expected. I thought I'd be angrier. Instead, I just feel tired, like I've been holding my breath for 27 years and finally let it out." She sat down in the chair across from my desk, the one where employees used to sit when they needed help with impossible problems. "Your chest been bothering you?" I touched my sternum reflexively. The tightness had been there for months, stress manifesting in ways my 49-year-old body couldn't ignore anymore. "A little. Nothing serious. Ryan, remember what Dr. Singh said at your last checkup? The pre-diabetes, the blood pressure. He said you needed to reduce stress before it becomes something worse." I remember. Do you? Because I've been hearing promises about slowing down for 3 years. You still take calls during Madison's birthday parties. You still work weekends when we're supposed to be together. She was right. I'd missed too many family dinners, too many school plays, too many moments that mattered because some system was down or some client was panicking. This is different, Jessica. This is about protecting what Nolan built. Is it? Or is it about proving to yourself that 27 years meant something, that hit closer to home than I wanted to admit? Part of me, maybe a big part, needed to see Brandon fail, needed him to understand the magnitude of what he'd thrown away, maybe both, then finish it. But when this is over, when that timer hits 0 and whatever's going to happen happens, you're done. Really done. No more midnight calls, no more weekend emergencies, no more choosing work over family. Deal. My phone buzzed with Brett's response. Conference call set for 2 p.m. "Shane will be there. We need solutions, not problems." The conference call was tense from the first minute. Shane Sullivan sounded like he'd aged 10 years since yesterday. "Ryan, first, I want to apologize for Brandon's actions. They were inexcusable." "Apology accepted, Shane." Brett jumped in. "Ryan, we need to know exactly what we're dealing with. Stellantis is asking for documentation we can't locate. Their lawyers are using words like material breach and contract termination. The Secure Core licensing certificates are in a secure partition tied to my employee credentials. When my access was terminated yesterday, the system automatically locked down. Can you unlock it? I could, but that would require me to be reinstated as an employee, which would contradict the termination Brandon signed yesterday." Shane cleared his throat. "What if we offered you a consulting contract, temporary, just to get us through the merger? At what rate? We were thinking $2,000 a day." I did the math quickly. The merger was supposed to close in 6 weeks. Even at $2,000 a day for 42 days, it wouldn't approach the value of what I'd own outright in 2 days. "Shane, that's generous, but it doesn't solve the underlying problem. Brandon fired me to save $180,000, but my bonus payment isn't just compensation. It's contractually linked to intellectual property transfer rights that Nolan negotiated 15 years ago." Dead silence on the call. Brett finally spoke. "Intellectual property transfer to who? To me, personally." "Ryan," Shane said carefully, "are you saying that if your bonus pays Friday morning, you'll own Secure Core? I'm saying Nolan was very thorough about protecting the company's core assets from hostile takeover or incompetent management." More silence, then Brett. "Jesus Christ. Nolan, what did you do?" Wednesday morning, Apex stock opened down 15%. By noon, it had dropped another 8%. Total decline 23% in 2 days. My phone rang. Casey Thompson. "Mr. Patterson, I wanted you to know something. Brandon offered me your old position yesterday. Chief Technology Officer, $220,000 salary. Congratulations." I turned it down. That surprised me. Why? Because when I asked him basic questions about Secure Core architecture, he couldn't answer them. He kept saying we'd figure it out during transition. A CTO job where I can't get straight answers about our core product. That's not a promotion. That's a setup for failure. What did you tell him? That I don't work for titles. I work for people who understand the technology they're responsible for. My father didn't come up from Texas and work the Ford Rouge plant for 20 years, so I could take jobs from people who don't respect the work. Something loosened in my chest. Casey understood what this was really about: respect for the craft, for the knowledge, for the years it takes to build something meaningful. Casey, that was the right call. Sir, can I ask you something? Ask away. Is Apex going to survive this merger? I looked at the countdown timer. 46 hours, 18 minutes, 3 seconds. That depends entirely on decisions made in the next 2 days. But Casey, whatever happens, you're going to be fine. You've got the skills and the character to succeed anywhere. Thank you, sir. That means more than you know. After we hung up, I realized something had shifted. This wasn't just about Brandon anymore, or even about my own vindication. It was about people like Casey, who deserved to work for companies that valued their contributions instead of seeing them as line items on a spreadsheet. Wednesday, 4:30 p.m., an email arrived from Justin Cooper, CEO of Stellantis North America. Mr. Patterson, Stellantis is prepared to discuss alternative arrangements for secure core licensing that don't depend on Apex's corporate structure. Would you be available for a confidential conversation? J. Cooper, the countdown read, 42 hours, 30 minutes, 15 seconds. I stared at that email for 10 minutes before responding with a single line. I'll be available Friday after 11 a.m. Thursday, 6:30 a.m. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing against the nightstand. Linda stirred beside me, but didn't wake up. The caller ID showed Brett Anderson. Ryan, we need to talk. The board held an emergency session last night that went until 2 a.m. Brandon's been suspended pending review. Shane is, well, let's just say he's having a hard time with his son's decisions. I'm sorry to hear that. Are you? Because from where I sit, it looks like you orchestrated this entire situation. Brett wasn't wrong. Nolan had given me the tools 15 years ago, but I'd chosen to use them. Brandon fired me to save $180,000. What happened after that was just business responding to contractual realities. Just business, Ryan. You nearly destroyed a company that employs 847 people. People with families, mortgages, kids in college. That stung because it was true. In my focus on Brandon's arrogance, I'd lost sight of everyone else who would be affected by Apex's collapse. The employees weren't my target, but they were collateral damage, and that mattered. I sat up in bed, careful not to wake Jessica. Through the bedroom window, I could see frost covering our neighbor's lawn. The kind of February morning that makes Detroit feel like the edge of the world. What are you proposing? Come back. Not as an employee, as a consultant. Help us through the Stellantis transition. But I need to know, can you actually transfer those licensing rights back to Apex? The countdown timer read, 28 hours, 30 minutes, 12 seconds. The transfer happens automatically when my bonus clears Friday morning. After that, I own SecureCore outright. But ownership doesn't mean I can't license it back to Apex. At what terms? That depends. Is Brandon permanently out? The board will make that decision Friday morning. But given the circumstances, yes, I think Brandon's done. Then we can talk, Thursday, 2 p.m. Jessica found me in the backyard sitting on the old picnic table. Nolan had helped me build 10 years ago, watching Madison build a snow fort with the neighbor kids. Their laughter carried across the frozen yard like music. Penny, for your thoughts? Just thinking about what Nolan would want me to do. She sat down beside me, close enough that I could smell her shampoo, the same brand she'd used since we were first married. And what's that? Protect the work and the people who do it, but not necessarily the company. What's the difference? The company is just a legal structure. The work, SecureCore, the technology, the innovation, that's bigger than Apex. Nolan always said the work would outlive all of us. Madison waved at us from her snow fort, her cheeks red with cold, but her smile bright as summer. She's going to need college money in 10 years, Jessica said quietly. I know, and we're going to need healthcare when we retire. I know that too. So whatever you decide tomorrow, decide it with a clear head, not just your heart. That evening, Justin Cooper called personally. Mr. Patterson, I wanted to follow up on my email. Stellantis is prepared to offer you a direct consulting agreement for SecureCore development and deployment. 3-year contract, $8 million total compensation. I nearly dropped the phone. $8 million was more money than I'd make the rest of my career at Apex. That's generous. You built something remarkable. We want to make sure it continues to evolve. What about Apex? Apex would receive a licensing fee for existing deployments, but future development would be handled through your consulting firm. I thought about Brett's words, about the 847 people at Apex, about Casey turning down Brandon's offer because he believed in doing things right. Mr. Cooper, let me ask you something. Would this consulting arrangement include bringing on additional technical personnel, people I'd want to work with? Absolutely. We'd want you to build a team, then let's schedule a formal conversation for Friday afternoon. Friday, 10 a.m. I stood in Apex's lobby for the first time since Monday, visitor's badge clipped to my jacket. The receptionist smiled nervously when she saw me. Mr. Patterson, they're waiting for you in conference room A. Brett was there along with Shane Sullivan and 3 other board members I recognized. Justin Cooper had driven down from Auburn Hills. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Shane stood when I walked in. He looked like he'd aged 5 years in 5 days. Ryan, I owe you an apology. Brandon's actions were inexcusable. The board voted unanimously this morning. His employment is terminated effective immediately. I'm sorry it came to that. Are you? Because I'm not sure my son learned anything from this except that his father can't protect him from his mistakes. That was harder to hear than I expected. Shane was a good man who'd built Apex into something meaningful after Nolan retired. He didn't deserve to watch his son destroy it. Justin Cooper got straight to business. Mr. Patterson, we need to know the current status of Secure Core licensing. Can you restore Apex's access? I opened my laptop and logged into the secure partition I'd created years ago. My watch showed 10:58 a.m. 2 minutes until my bonus cleared. I can transfer the licensing rights back to Apex, I said, but I have some conditions. Name them, Brett said. First, Casey Thompson gets promoted to Chief Technology Officer immediately. He understands secure core architecture better than anyone except me, and he has the character to lead technical development responsibly. Done. Second, Apex establishes a technical mentorship program. No more critical systems depending on single points of failure, Shane nodded. That makes sense. Third, I'll consult on the Stellantis integration for 6 months, part-time, mostly remote. After that, I'm retired. Agreed. My phone buzzed at exactly 11 a.m. bank notification. 18,000 deposited to checking account. The countdown timer on my laptop flashed green and displayed transfer completed. I owned Secure Core for about 30 seconds. I pulled up the licensing transfer interface and typed in Apex's corporate credentials. Another biometric scan, another transfer authorization. Apex Automotive Solutions now holds full licensing rights to the Secure Core system, I announced. The relief in the room was palpable. However, I continued, I've also accepted Justin's consulting offer for future Secure Core development. Apex will handle current deployments and Stellantis integration. My team will work on next-generation systems. I looked around the room. Everybody wins. Apex keeps the merger. Stellantis gets their technology. The employees keep their jobs, and I get to retire on my own terms. Friday evening, Jessica and I sat on our back porch despite the February cold, sharing a Bell's Two-Hearted and watching the sunset over Detroit's skyline. Madison was inside video calling with her parents about the snow fort she'd built. How does it feel? Jessica asked. Different than I expected. I thought I'd feel more vindicated. Instead, I just feel relieved. Good relieved or bad relieved. Good relieved. Like I finally put down something heavy I'd been carrying for years. My phone had been quiet all afternoon. No crisis calls, no emergency meetings, no systems failures requiring immediate attention. For the first time in 27 years, Apex's problems weren't my problems. What are you going to do with 6 months of part-time consulting? Train Casey. Document everything. Build a team that can innovate without me. Make sure what Nolan and I build can survive and grow. And after that, we go to Wisconsin. We spend a month at the lake. I teach Madison how to fish properly. I remember what it feels like to wake up without a countdown timer in my head. Jessica smiled and leaned against my shoulder. Think Brandon learned anything from this? Maybe. He's 28. People can change if they want to. Shane's a good father. He'll make sure Brandon gets another chance to do better. You sound almost sympathetic. Nolan always said, everyone deserves a chance to learn from their mistakes, even MBA kids who make bad decisions under pressure. In my pocket, my phone buzzed once with a text message from Casey Thompson. Thank you, sir. I won't let you down. I smiled and put the phone away without responding. Casey didn't need my approval anymore. He'd earned his shot. The countdown was over. For the first time in decades, time belonged to me again. From inside the house, I could hear Madison laughing at something on her video call. The sound mixing with the distant hum of Detroit traffic and the gentle creak of the porch swing Jessica and I had installed 15 years ago. Some things I realized were worth more than any merger, any system, any 27-year career. Some things were worth coming home to. And some lessons are worth learning the hard way, even if you're not the one who has to learn them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemy, it's building something so valuable they can't afford to lose you. Real power isn't about being indispensable forever. It's about choosing when and how to become dispensable on your own terms.